So I will call the meeting to order of the Bike and Run Plan Advisory Committee and ask that the roll be called.
Mike Kammerer.
Present.
Joe Stacy. Bruce Hendricks.
Here.
Dan Palmer. John Getz.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, great. Next thing on the agenda is the approval of the June 28th, 2018 meeting minutes. Does anyone have any discussion on those minutes or any changes to make? If not, then I would
Motion to accept.
Second.
motion to accept and approve the minutes by Bruce and John. I guess it
Just all those in
all
favor.
voted. We're good.
Yeah, good.
All right, so we're moving on to old business, new business. The first thing is the status report on the bike path maintenance. I think that's probably Dan, is it? Or Jim, or,
Sure, I can do it.
Dan will do it.
okay.
We had on the schedule this year to do the pipeline path that runs down south to Struckman, and we actually had our crews do that work, and actually turned out pretty good, so we're hoping to do more of that in the future. Next year's project we're looking at is Wallace Court that goes to Centennial School, and then start ComEd right-of-way, which is a big path that will take several years to do, but we'll take sections of it at a time and try to replace some of that. The section through Wallace, we were just walking it to see. If you know off of Wallace Court, it's a pretty tight area it's right between houses. That's gonna be, our equipment probably won't fit, so we're probably gonna have to get a contractor for that portion. But then once we get past there, maybe there's something we can do, but that one we might have to use a contractor for.
So is that done, or that's next year?
That's for next year. That's what's scheduled right now. Or what we'll be proposing it in the capital program. Will be Wallace.
What now?
The Wallace Court section that goes to Centennial, that's what's on our capital that the board will be seeing in November under our capital program.
Okay.
So.
Good, good.
Is the budget for next year same as this year? $20,000 and then 20 from the Park District?
Right.
Hopefully.
Hopefully,
You
yeah.
never know when.
To be determined, but I mean,
But
that's what we're proposing.
We start.
Just to give you an idea, that path that we did this year was about 1,400 feet, 8 feet wide, and not including staff time. I mean, I could include staff time in that, but the savings that we saw, it was roughly $7,500 in asphalt. And the rest is we have the equipment, we have the staff. So that 7,500 got us 1,400 feet roughly, so that's pretty good. So
Good. That's excellent.
So is there money left over? I mean,
we still have some money. We do have some money available. It's all about timing now. We haven't, I mean, we just got the bike path done, I think, last month or earlier this month. So it's being able to get the time for it. So, and I think the Park District, I had talked to Kelly, and I think they had a need to be able to use some of that funding for other stuff. So I told her that we weren't getting a lot done this year, so I didn't see us using the full amount this year anyway. But one thing that we want to look at doing is some seal coating and some treatments of the paths that are like the ones that the pipeline we've pretty much done over the last several years, trying to extend the life of that area as well.
Where's the pipeline, Dan? I lost my bearings.
It's the one at Stearns and South Bartlett, southwest corner, that heads diagonally along the pipeline.
Behind the funeral home.
Southwest goes
In the
by the
memorial.
funeral home.
Okay, goes by all the parks.
Goes all the way down to Struckman.
All that, yeah.
So that entire path's been redone?
We did, over the last few years,
Huh.
probably the last, since I've been here, 4 to 5 years, we took pieces.
Yeah, okay.
And that's where we did the cost share with the Park District. The change this year was our crews did the last section of it, and just to kind of pilot to see if our guys could do it and how it would go, and I'd say it went well, so we're looking to do more of that in the future.
All right. That is it on the report on the bike path maintenance then?
Yep.
Well, then let's move on to the DuPage Forest Preserve District update.
Good afternoon, Mark Decker, landscape architect. We don't have any further updates since last time. Still waiting to hear back on bumblebee survey by the Illinois National History Survey. As soon as we get the results of that, we're looking forward to proceeding with phase 2 design of the North Central DuPage Regional Trail from Woodland Hills to the Prairie Path.
Any of you guys have questions for?
Has the study started, or you're waiting for the study to start?
The study has started.
Okay.
Staff from the Natural History Survey has gone out, and it's a season-long study. So they look at, in the warmer months where the colony of bees are flying, and in the winter, the queen is the only bee that sticks around.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what the survey methods are, but the survey does go through the whole growing season.
Okay.
We're waiting to hear back on their recommendations of how we
Okay. Thank you.
All right, moving right along. Park District update.
No update unless you have any questions.
You gentlemen have any questions for the Park District? Thank you for being here, both of you. Appreciate that.
Can I just, I'm curious, the Park District, what do you perceive as your input into our bicycling interest in Bartlett, primarily?
I think overall, the general consensus is that it crosses over between our parks and the village, and so kind of along the philosophy of connecting the trails with the forest preserve, the park district and the village all working together and maintaining this big thing for safety for us, for our trails and the connecting trails, so
Okay.
definitely a good partnership.
I was wondering if, like, when they prioritize, Dan, which trails they work on, or if that ties in with what they perceive as being the most dangerous trails, where they move them up the attentive ladder, which ones should be worked on first, and,
Well, one thing, yeah, we've been talking to them, in particular, the one on South Bartlett is one of the paths that we're looking at, and the Forest Preserve, we had a license agreement, I guess, with them that expired a few years ago. So we're in the process of, they want to do a 99-year easement agreement, or, long-term easement. So we got the draft on that, so we're working on that. That's the small portion, I think, is the Forest Preserve that's
Wayne
by the,
Grove,
Wayne Grove, by the horse farm over there.
right.
So we'll get that worked out, but that path is definitely one that we need to attack at one of the, but that one's gonna be, it's gonna be expensive because it's not wide and it's got slopes. So, to make it ADA compliant, it would be very challenging, but
It's a high-use path, though. I mean, as far as a rep for the city managing a path to where it's high use and getting the feedback that the city's taking care of business, that's a very visible use, especially on the 4th of July and holidays. Everybody's back and forth on that path, going to the library, going down that road, which is highly traveled, they see the path. It is busted up pretty bad. So, and it's weird. You can't really have the standard widths there, but.
right, with the trees and everything else, it'd be very difficult to meet the
And
standard
it's,
of 10 feet.
shoots right across that driveway from the horse farm where people are
Right.
going in and out of there, so it's a little bit hazardous too, so, yeah, there's a lot going on there.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Then the next item on the agenda is item number D, grant updates, and that's probably to Jim, or,
Tyler's gonna handle
Tyler,
this
all right.
one.
Okay.
And actually, Tyler can handle all of them with Christie. Or Tyler's been working on the grants.
All right.
That's me.
Somebody's gotta do it.
So unfortunately, the bad news with the Invest in Cook grant, it sounded really promising. They said, because we got it the first year to do the preliminary and design engineering for the path on West Bartlett Road, right adjacent to the village church. And they made it sound, if we applied for it the following year for construction, we would get it. Unfortunately, most of their funding went to the city of Chicago for their various projects. So we will apply next year if any of these other grants I'm about to speak on aren't awarded the project. But
But that would be for a different section of bike path, because the bike path in front of Village Church will be done next year, correct?
No,
It's not? I thought,
that's what, we got denied for the construction.
So I think that's going to be an item that comes up in, to
Right.
the board during capital, whether we try to reapply for grants or whether we use another funding source.
I thought we were trying to correct that swell, the issue. So that was, they just got the engineering part of that taken care of, basically? And yet,
that'll be complete, I believe, by the end of next month.
It'll be all designed,
Everything
but
will
we
be
won't
ready.
have any money to build it. It's kind of the status of it, and
So it'll be shovel ready, but it won't be funded.
all right. Well, I'm glad the church didn't hold off on doing their parking
right, that's why it was a good thing,
from that standpoint.
right.
Okay, all right.
What's the estimated construction cost?
Right now, it's looking at about 400,000 with the bike path and the new bioswales and everything.
Gotcha.
So it's not a cheap path.
No, no. That is true. All right.
I guess on to the next one, we submitted a, I guess, grant, you can call it, to a State Representative Winger
Okay.
for the IDNR bike path links that we've received a grant for in the past, but the funds just aren't being released. So in order to get that moving forward, she says she's sent it for approval, so we're still waiting to hear back. I'm not really sure when we will hear back.
Every once in a while, our state representatives contact the village and ask them if they have any shovel-ready projects. And, because the state government allocations to the different areas and the different reps, sometimes there's money available. So they contact all those reps and say, you know, reach out to your communities in your area and see if they have any. So Tyler got the DNR grant we have, that's another one that's all designed, and I think we actually bid that one out, and then the state pulled the funding. So that's shovel ready. So we submitted that grant, or that project to Representative Winger to carry the ball on whether or not we'll get funding that way, so. We've done, in the past, we've been successful when we've had projects that representatives contact us and we submit them and get them, so. So we're keeping our fingers crossed.
Was that the original, or the plan to connect Lakewood Mills, I believe, to the state park?
It's Lakewood Mill and then also on the west side, connected to Kohler Field, so it's a
Oh, yeah. Okay.
dual connection, and we got that one.
Yep.
But the state,
Got money.
2014.
yeah, it's been a while,
Yeah.
so, yeah. So. It happens.
So I guess the next one would be for the train station bike shelters, which is a group project with multiple different communities. This one actually, Jim did pretty much all the legwork on. We just had the phase 1 and 2 meeting with IDOT about who's gonna do the letting on it. They decided local letting with Elmhurst, being the one who's gonna front the money and then we pay them back.
And that one sounds like he's gonna bid it, and then it went through this IDOT process, it's a difficult process, and IDOT really, usually it's for big road projects, but because it was federal money, it had to be done. So Howard from Elmhurst, he's gonna buy all the racks. Dan's people are gonna go pick it up, and then we'll install them. And they're gonna be installed, so it's just a matter of getting the materials and the money funneled to the company I think there was 8 towns that were getting racks. I think we're getting 11 racks and 1 shelter, so it'll be in the spring, so.
Good, that one came through, good.
Yeah.
Good.
And so the RTA grant, this one, it's called the RTA Access to Transit. It was basically used it was available to any town that has a TOD plan. They want to help implement that because it helps them out in the long run as well. So it was basically to help pedestrian and commuter movement. So we had 2 submittals, one being the bike path on West Bartlett Road by the village church, which the RTA had 2 letters of support for when we applied for it through Invest in Cook. So that one, knock on wood, I'm hoping gets awarded. But the other project was for pedestrian gates at the train station, as well as all the crosswalks becoming ADA compliant with the right curb cuts, high visibility crosswalks, a little added signage, all those things. So those would be how the funds work. They would award the few municipalities they want to award. Then they would take all of those projects and put it into a CMAQ fund, CMAQ grant application, which they said they've gotten the last 5 years. So from that, they would then apply for that. And if that gets awarded, the split there is 80-20, but RTA would cover half of the local share of so it'd really be the village paying 10% instead of the 20.
Questions, Bruce, John?
Yeah, the days of just rolling out money for grants is over.
Long gone.
It's all very complicated, and there's always this chess game of playing with a grant, taking it here, and if you don't get it here, taking it there. So Tyler does a great job with it and keeping track of it. And he applies for other stuff too, not just the bike grants.
I hunt for everything.
Yes.
There you go, well, I mean, it sounded hopeful early on, and you know, we keep applying, we're gonna hit something.
Exactly.
You never know.
Worst they can do is say no.
If you don't ask, you don't get,
Exactly.
so.
Are grants normally a Republican agenda or a Democratic agenda?
Democratic.
I don't know. I mean,
Mix?
the grant programs are out there, and how they're awarded, sometimes you don't know. I mean, in Cook County, you know, that they were encouraging us to do all that, and that's somewhat of a Democratic government. And then like with Representative Winger, she's more Republican, and she encouraged us. So I think you're chasing the money. So whether it's Republican or Democrat, it's hard to determine, because there's a selection group. With Cook County, I mean, they call all the grantees, and they interview you and ask you questions about the projects. It seems pretty straightforward, but you know how they award. Now in that case, it all went to Chicago, and there was very little for the suburbs, but the first go-round, they spread it around the suburbs, so, yeah, so I guess you have that to take into account too, so.
As we ride our bikes around, some cities seem to have such adequate funding for their stuff, and some cities don't. It just seems the visual effect you see. You know, you always wonder how they pulled this off. They just have more corporate tax they're bringing in, have more money and flowing around.
You know, some towns, I mean, years ago, we'd apply for a lot of the bike paths that are built in Bartlett, we got through the grant program, through the DuPage mayors and managers. I mean, you know, the ones that Dan talked about, the ones we're redoing now, those all came, you know, back in there was a priority at the level of government that bike paths were a big thing. Now the priority on bike paths is lower, you know. So the towns that have them, if they put them in, they got, with grants, they were good. Very few towns put in bike paths without grant money. I can tell you that's almost a given. You know, the whole Fox River Trail, that was all put in with state, they used to call it LawCon. IDNR had land acquisition, water and conservation fund money, and they used to, every town that applied got it. Now, the LawCon program, it doesn't even exist. We tried, what was this IDNR, was like a $50,000 bike path connection, they pulled it. And it went to some other funding at the state level. So a lot of those things, they have cycles, they come and go, so.
There's no fundraising ideas for financing ourselves, our own little maintenance on our path.
It's called taxes. And that's a good fundraiser. And it's a priority set by the village board. And Bartlett, I can tell you, we're building a police station and we're getting Lake Michigan water. Those are two heavy-duty projects. And we might have some sewage treatment work that needs to be done. So you get through those meats and potatoes kind of infrastructure, bike paths are a little lower priority. Fortunately, Dan's people, they got the paver, they'd learned the skill to put it in, and you're getting a good bang for your buck. You wouldn't get 1,400 square feet or linear feet paved for 7,500 if you bid that out.
We did driveways on the side.
No.
Yeah, I didn't want to do driveways.
No.
We put them in right in the beginning, and then it's every man for themselves. So there's a lot of we do a lot of driveway work, and
If we tear it up.
if we tear it up, so, yeah.
The only way you're gonna get charity work is if the biking community comes together and forms a club like the Bartlett High School boosters, and then you get deep pockets to contribute to your stadium and your sign, and then you get something accomplished like that, but
Right.
it's probably not gonna happen. I don't know.
Ask Greg to get a donation bucket up. in his
Donation
store.
bucket, there you go. Terry can ask right there. Let's finish up and then we'll let you say a couple things here in a second there, Terry. Continued, does that cover everything, Tyler? With the,
Yeah, unless you have any other
nothing else?
questions on them.
Any other questions? Then, item E, continued discussion regarding adding on-street bike routes to the bike path map.
We did a kind of a analysis of which ones we thought would be good routes to designate, similar to if you recall when we did the Woodland Hills routing and Dan's people put up the green signs with the bike and routed made the connection from 59 over, or not from 59, but around Woodland Hills Parkway to the Forest Preserve Drive, which is in conjunction with the Forest Preserves Trail. These were several routes that we're hoping to do all the signage. Wanted to throw them out there and see how you felt, but they'd be similar, marking the route on the street sign that this is a bike route. so more cost-effective than putting in bike lanes. It doesn't impact the parking, doesn't impact the road surface or dedicate the road surface to a bike lane, but it still provides the same connectivity from one point of a bike route to another. So these are some that we'd like to do, and the example sign is up in the corner. It's the standardized sign, so that's up for discussion.
Okay.
I like all these routes, and all the connections kind of between them are actual paths, so I think it would flow well. I'd like to see a couple additions, possibly Munger Road. Pretty much all of Munger Road. I mean, it's very heavily traveled from bicycles between Stearns and Army Trail, actually even from Stearns to Smith. I know that gets beyond Bartlett though, but you know, in lieu of the path that the Forest Preserve is working on, and even when that's done, north of Forest Preserve Drive, that's heavily biked. And we've got those signs up there now that say the 3 foot, you know, that's great. Maybe just tack a bike route sign to that. I know I think the county is making Powis, weren't they? I remember the map you showed, Christie, a couple.
That's one that was part of the Wayne Township.
Oh, the township, yeah, township.
Yeah, it was the township.
On this map, yep.
Correct.
So, and because I know a lot of guys do that loop. They go Stearns, Munger, Smith, Powis. They do that giant triangle. And I know there's also the 3 foot signs, you know, they give the 3 foot signs also on Smith, and there's one on, I believe there's Powis, yeah, going north. So I think that should be a bike, that whole loop should be a bike route for the road guys.
Any other comments?
That was all I had on the map.
That's Bruce.
Yeah, I just want to suggest that it's probably not a good idea to, you know, first of all, the bike route sign, when you see a bike route sign, does that mean like, if I go down this suggested bike route, I'll be safer than, I'll be safer than if I went down a road that doesn't have a bike route sign on it. What is that? I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around, if I see a bike route sign, what does that mean? Is that for the drivers to know there's probably bikers out there, for the people in vehicles, or what is a bike route sign for?
It's that, you know, it's for drivers to know that there might be bikers more frequently on this road. And then it's also for bikers to know that this is kind of a designated route, and ideally, as John just said, they tie into existing paths. And it's a lot more cost-effective to do this than it is to start, you know, if we would build these paths or to put in bike lanes, it's not going to happen in a short time.
I understand that part. You know, that specifically, the one suggested bike route marking takes across to West Bartlett Road on Western Avenue. That intersection there, if there's any encouragement for people to bike across Western there, that intersection is just dead man's curve there. It's always backed up and a problem area. We're just prior to the railroad tracks, the traffic is backed up onto West Bartlett Road. And it just seems like we wouldn't want to encourage people to cross there on their bicycles. It's a rough area. It's a dangerous area, really, for cars and anybody.
We can take it off if you think it's that bad.
No, it's bad. I'm not surprised people, if you've been there, you'll know that's a problem.
It's a heavily trafficked area. We have issues with cars turning left to avoid the downtown traffic signals. Our police department's looking at it to come up with a solution for the car traffic. We've got residents on the north side of the tracks at Western complaining about all the vehicles that cut over there and then they cut to north and then go up. It's, as far as crossing the railroad tracks, I mean, you only have 3 options and one of them's bad, crossing right in the heart of downtown. You got Prospect and you got Western.
Right.
And if you want to get to the north end of town, those are obviously the 2 ones that you use. But we could hold off on that one and until, I don't know what's going to be the solution.
That's a good point, Jim. That's probably, as you outlined it there, it's probably the only way to get across Western. That's a problem area, as you're already
Oh,
aware.
yeah. We can hold off on it because there's a lot of, I don't know what's going to be the solution in the future, whether that road's going to be rerouted or redesignated. I won't want to say at this time, but the police are looking at different options because you get the people who live north on Western and at North and Western are complaining about all the vehicle traffic. And I think we've successfully stopped the trucks from going there for the most part, because that was a kind of a truck route there for a while. We can evaluate that one further and hold off on designating that one.
Well, I'm just thinking, if the city's going to sponsor posting these bike route signs, I was thinking that if I had my family out for a ride, I would say this bike route is, this is what the city thinks is a good place to go. You got to be cautious, but this is where you should take the kids and the wife and pedal down this road. I don't know what the specific parameters are for a bike route sign. I wonder about neighborhood watch. We have a neighborhood watch sign in our neighborhood, and you ask any neighbor what that means, and I guess it means we're watching, I guess. Watching out for our neighbors. I guess there's actually a permit required you have to go through the village to get a neighborhood watch.
Process through the police department, right, to it's an awareness a campaign, and, who do you call and how do you make the call? You see something suspicious, that's that's what it is, so.
Yeah, I feel obligated to go house to house. If we're gonna, that's a good idea that, like the sign should mean something to people,
Christie suggested we could stop that one at West Bartlett Road and not go, for now, and not go over the railroad.
I would think that'd be a good idea until that whole thing settles down there.
Right, can do that.
Well, once they get finished with doing construction on West Bartlett Road, next year, or is it next year they're going to do West Bartlett Road or 2020?
No, that one's out probably a few years.
Okay.
We're still
Good to know, 'cause
finishing up phase
people are
1.
people are asking too about the Stearns and 59 when that's done, and then 20 and when that's done, and I'm telling them, well, then we're going to kick in West Bartlett Road in the near future too, but if there's a little bit of
It's probably a couple.
rest between it, people will probably be happy that there's a little bit of a rest between it for a little while at least. So, yeah, that's a good idea then, Christie. We'll just stop it at West Bartlett Road and not go across. That's very good.
And then the path to the left is
Yeah.
not marked on. There's a big asphalt path that'll take you all the way to 59.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, good suggestion, Bruce.
One final notice, I just like this sign better. This seems to give you more of an awareness that share the road to these bicyclists rather than they're out here. If they irritate you, it sort of implies, share the space. But I don't know what the difference is between these two.
The yellow one's more.
My understanding, the bike route sign is more to be on a map so that if someone's trying to get from point A to point B, they know that here's the route to take.
Right.
Where share the road is more advisory, watch out, there's, bikes on the road type thing for the driver. The bike route sign is more for the bicyclists to be able to maneuver through town. That's kind of my
Right,
interpretation
the
of.
bike route signs, ideally, eventually, we'd add wayfinding to it, that's, 1.2 miles to the library. So it's kind of telling you, this is the way to go to get to destination A, B, or C. The share the road's a little bit different purpose for that signage.
That seemed like the kind of sign you went on Munger, share the road, something.
Right, and speaking of bike route on Munger, going north of Forest Preserve, if we're encouraging people, I don't know that that's a road that I would encourage people to ride on, especially at the bike, the hill with the bike, with the railroad crossing. I get it, people do it, but if you're trying to encourage people, the road's narrow, you got a railroad track with a hill, it's not an ideal situation.
Yeah, I guess I agree with Bruce more, maybe the share the road on Munger might be a better,
Right.
better option. My point was just to make it visible.
Right,
You know,
right.
because, you know, people are going to use it, and they do use it. And, you know, the speed limit north of Forest Preserve Drive is 35, and south of it is 45. So I don't know if that can be something looked at. And there's no striping for passing zones. So I guess while we're talking about Munger, you know, there's hills where it's dotted line. And, you know, there's cars that have passed me and cars that are coming towards me, cresting the hill. And if there was a no passing zone, it would be a much safer situation.
Is that us though still, or is that DuPage?
No, that's ours, from North Avenue, or from Army Trail to Stearns is ours. So we can look at that.
Yep, okay. And then while we're talking about signs, a couple meetings ago, I asked about the North Central DuPage Regional signage, and it seemed to be well received. And is that something that we can still think about doing to mark the actual
path.
Yeah, because it's marked very well through Mallard Lake, you know, east through Bloomingdale and Roselle into Schaumburg. But then when you going westbound, once you get out of Mallard Lake, you don't know where the North Central Regional Trail goes unless you know the path.
You're talking the one that goes through Hawk Hollow and all
It
that?
goes through, yep, it essentially goes from Munger, right now, from Munger to Bussey Woods.
Yeah.
And it's marked very well east of Mallard Lake.
It'd be something, at least through the Forest Preserve.
Well, the Forest Preserve, they've done their part. They've
have it
marked
through Hawk Hollow?
Well, through Mallard Lake. And I think there's a sign at the,
West of,
yeah, so
we need to
basically.
go west of County Farm where the bridge was
Yeah,
put in,
yep,
right?
west of that. From County Farm to Struckman, it's one route.
Right.
You can't get lost, but when you get to Struckman, you don't know where the North Central Trail goes,
Okay.
unless you know it, I mean, so.
That's a nice trip, isn't it?
It is. Oh, I love that route.
See those. So if you could send those over.
Yeah, that would,
Yeah, the logos are great. I know in Bloomingdale and Roselle, they don't have the logo on it because they created the signs, I think, before you did your program to do that, but. Yep. Meacham Grove, yeah, that's the other one, yep. Okay. It's one route, yeah.
right.
Yeah.
All right, any other discussion on item E? Bike path map. Any other comments by staff?
Think we have anything else?
Okay. I'm just wondering, just for my own ability to remember to do things, if it's possible for us, when they make up this agenda, could they put a section on here that says open to the public for the 3-minute talk, so I will remember? You know, something of that nature. Can we do that on the agenda? That way, otherwise I'm not going to remember. If I'm following the agenda, I just go by the agenda. And it's not something popping into my mind if I don't see it, but if I see it, I'll open it up. So I would have opened it up earlier, Terry. It's not like I'm trying to snub you in any way. And so now I'll give you your 3 minutes if you'd like to stand up and make your comments and say what you have to say. But I would have given it to you in the beginning, but just didn't occur to me. So I apologize.
Actually, hearing everything else, I'll make more comments. And I just want to say, Dan, I have ridden the trail that's down there, so nice part, and your guys did. And I had a lot of comments from people in that neighborhood who said, well, nice job.
Thanks.
A good $7,500.
we're gonna see what else we can get done with the money we have available.
Right, right.
Seasons are running out now and then, but,
Yeah, and I heard that maybe you've got a little money left over this year that because of the weather, you're not gonna be able to spend. And I think I've given everybody in the room a very nice map of the city of Belleville. And Alcatraz and Rydell, Illinois helped them. They labeled streets very comfortable, less comfortable. So on the insert, I gave my shot at what I thought might be comfortable streets here in Bartlett. And two pages. One coming out on the back side of some of those signs that are not only, they do more than just a bike route. They show a bicycle, show a destination, an arrow for direction, and they give a distance. And those are really helpful when they're out there on the trail, especially if it's 2 or 3 or 4 miles away. The bottom picture, that's a DuPage County trail. One of the things about Bartlett is being in 3 counties, hardly in a good bike map that shows the whole thing. If you just look at a regional bike map, DuPage County's got a map, Kane County's got a map, Cook County's got a map. The Bartlett map, Bartlett signboard, you can post one at the Metro, one at Denson, one at the State Park, if we had a bike map. Now, about 15 grand, 6,000 copies. Active transport, maybe at Bartlett's, being somewhat smaller in scope, would probably be about $12,000. So Dan, if you got $12,000 left over in your budget, since everybody's kind of trading some money, and maybe Kim's got some money from the park, she can throw over.
Improvement money. Use that for,
Really nice.
for maintenance.
right.
I didn't see what you got handed out, so I'm sure there's some similar things. But the one common thread is, let's have a community meeting. Let's have some people come into the village hall and have a conversation about where they would like to bike, where they feel safe biking, and put together a bike map that is really something for Bartlett. We got one from 2014. Really out of date. And you can't argue, this is a beautiful, beautiful bike map. Very simple to understand. And it, within a year, we the other nice thing about the map is on the back side, it's got some really great information on being safe. Well, anyway, that's my suggestion. You mentioned Munger Road. I wrote an email to Rydell, Illinois, asking for their opinion because I got comments. One woman is so fearful that she's going to have a head-on crash coming over one of those hills on the north side, north of the railroad track. She got the hills. She's afraid that somebody is going to be over, coming and hurling. She's so fearful. She honks her horn the whole way up the hill just to make sure somebody can hear her in hopes that she doesn't run into something. So the thing that I was asking Rydell, Illinois, now we've got the 3-foot passing signs, but there's also a sign that's part of the manual uniform that shows a bicycle taking the full lane. And John, you mentioned no passing zone. I think a combination sign showing bicycles fully in the lane and telling car drivers no passing in this section. I mean, that's got to alert somebody's brain that bicycle riders are gonna ride there. There's no doubt about it. Those of us that are comfortable riding the road, we're gonna be on the road, and cars are gonna be passing us. Hey, if they crash, they crash. I see it coming, and but if we put signs up there that let people see, you know what? There's gonna be bicycles in the lane. And don't pass them, go 30 miles an hour. As far as Western and West Bartlett Road, now, the village board the other night now makes 25 miles an hour to speed in downtown, up to Western Avenue. On the other side of Western Avenue, it's 35 miles an hour. So people are zooming in at 35 miles an hour. That's why that contributes to the craziness there on that corner, because people want to get to that intersection, get across those railroad tracks, and get out of town. So I think we need a full review of the speed limits beyond just Western Avenue, beyond just Devon Avenue. And I do want to say that putting those crosswalk signs on Devon Avenue this week, big help. People are going to notice it. It's going to help let people know, slow down a little bit. Be nice if we painted some crosswalks, stripes there with that new sidewalk that comes across the Hickory cul-de-sac. It's a nice sidewalk.
Yeah.
And nobody's expecting people to come out of there because there was never a sidewalk there. Now that there's a sidewalk, crosswalk signs help. Having an actual crosswalk would help. And all along Devon Avenue, crosswalk, nice bright crosswalk, painted, would be a real nice thing. Help slow the people down. So anyway, those are just my suggestions. I think we need a community meeting. I've always said that. We've never had one, but I think we need a community meeting. Would help get a lot of stuff out there on the table. Oh, one last thing. I am talking to the county about putting in a trail to the state park. How many people are complaining? We had a deadly crash at Munger. But too many people are afraid to ride on that shoulder. I go out there once a week and I see maybe 2 bike riders a month, like myself, on that shoulder. Ride that shoulder. It's 2 miles, what, 9 miles. The people in West Ridge would have a way to get into Bartlett. It's easier for them to go to St. Charles or South Elk than it is to come to downtown Bartlett. They live in Bartlett. That's another reason for a meeting with the people who live there. That's my 3 minutes.
Thank you, Terry. All right, that being said, we have made our way through the agenda, but before we adjourn, I'd like to take a minute just to state that this is Jim's last meeting with us, and how much we've appreciated his input and knowledge and experience.
Thank you, Mike.
And you'll be sorely missed. But we wish you all the best in retirement. I always say to people, I'm looking forward to the day when I'll be retired instead of just tired. But yeah, all the best, and come back and keep us posted on what's going on.
Well, thank you, Mike. I will. I certainly appreciated serving on the very first Bike and Run committee that the village has had, and I'll be around. I'll still come by and say hi to everybody. So thanks a lot.
With that, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
We are adjourned.